Well, fatherhood. What a topic. Fatherhood. When I was a kid, there was a show called Father Knows Best. And, when you're a father, you want to know best. You want to know what's best for your kids, what's best for your family. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know what the hell I'm doing as a father of twin 5-year-old girls. One of my daughters is spirited. That's what the psychology books call her. Spirited. Highly critical, fault finding, stubborn, willful, obsessive compulsive, never admits to wrongdoing. She's like having 10 kids. Now, my other daughter is like me, a bit Aspergery. Very intelligent, but little Aspergery. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Every day is a new day with me. Uh, so the struggle goes on. And what I want to do is now I can hear my daughters right now. I told them I was going to make a video, talk about fatherhood. I find that funny. And I can hear them stomping. I can hear the elephantine clacking in the background. We're going to go to the park soon. It's a nice, humid yet overcast day here in the Southern California area. My father, he must have come from a different era. I know he was a military man. He came from an era when fathers knew everything. Let me tell you about my father. He was one of these math geniuses who, attending the University of Gainesville in Florida, would sit in class and the calculus professor might be struggling with a problem on the board. My father would go up and help the professor with a problem. Uh, my father, we were living in the Flavette projects in Florida. We were very poor. I think I told you the story before. I used to eat cockroaches. I thought they were chocolate bars. Growing up in the projects was not fun. My father got a job with IBM on a phone interview. We drove all the way from Florida to San Jose in about 1965 or so. And within about a year, my dad was the boss of everything. I mean, I know this because he took me to work one day. And I remember everyone was kind of jokingly calling my father the Big Cheese. Everywhere we would go, as my father introduced me to people go, "Hey, it's the Big Cheese." And I look at my father and I go, what's the Big Cheese, man? He goes, "I'm the boss." I go, "What do you mean you're the boss?" I go, "I'm the boss. I boss everyone around. They call me the Big Cheese. It's kind of fun around here, isn't it?" I go, "How did you become the boss?" He goes, "Well, I'm your father. Fathers know how to make that happen, don't we?" And this became a constant theme in our relationship. Shortly after, my father took me to the Anderson Reservoir to go fishing. No one's catching any fish except my father. Somehow, perhaps due to his upbringing near Lake Michigan, he was born in Detroit, but he did a lot of fishing in Canada. His family's from the Ontario region. He did a lot of fishing in Canada and Michigan. My father always knew what kind of bait to use, or if you shouldn't use bait, when it was appropriate to use lures. So my father catches like 25 rainbow trout. No one catches anything. I go, "How come you're catching fish and no one else is?" My father just looks at me. "I'm your dad. Dads know everything, right?" Now, my father's a nice guy. That day, after he caught the 25 rainbow trout, there was this poor family. They had nothing. My dad gave them all the fish. And I remember the father and mother were very touched by it. I think there was some crying going on and some hugs. And on the way home, my father goes, "Well, we got nothing to eat, so let's go to Taco Bell." And now this is 1967, mind you, maybe 68. I think I'm 6 years old at this point. This is like the grand opening of a Taco Bell in San Jose, California. My father takes me there. I've never been to a Taco Bell before. I don't even think I've been to a fast food restaurant before. And there are these teenagers working the registers, and I notice they have spots on their face. And I go to my dad, "Hey, what are those spots?" And my dad goes, "Those are pimples, son." And I go, "Why do they have pimples?" And my dad says, "Well, God gives teenagers pimples to teach them humility." And I'm thinking, oh my God, how horrible must teenagers be if you need this sebaceous gland secreting acne god to plague them to keep their arrogance in check. And I'm going, "How did you know that, Dad?" And my dad just looks at me and goes, "I'm your father, son. Fathers know everything." So we go to Taco Bell, and I think I was in the first grade that year. That year we were studying astronomy. I was bringing home, workbooks on the planets and stuff. And one day at the dinner table, I asked my dad, "How far is the sun from planet Earth?" My father nonchalantly says, 93 million miles. How in the hell did you know that, Dad? I'm your dad. I know everything. Now, because my dad was an engineer and because I thought he knew everything, there was I hear my daughters. We're going to have to go to the park soon. I want to finish this story because I am a father as well. My father, I assumed he could take this rocket ship at the park, this jungle gym rocket ship, and I just assumed he would be able to make it fly to the moon. He would just know how. And I told my friends this, and they like me, were obsessed with this idea. And one day, at the carport of the Royal and I Apartments in San Jose, California, circa 1968, my friends and I waited for 8 hours on the carport for my father to come home in his convertible red MGB. And when he arrived, we were screaming and jumping up and down. Dad, you got to make that rocket ship in the playground. You got to make it fly us to the moon. My dad says, I'm not going to do that. He did the next best thing. He took this giant moving box, about 5 foot high, 3 by 5 feet, and he took his marking pen. He was an expert artist, an illustrator, and he made a giant window with a marking pen of the planets and stars and a control panel. Essentially made a cockpit out of this box. And I swear to God, my friends and I would sit in this cockpit and play rocket ship all day long. Dad was a very talented guy. So a couple of years later, my father and I were watching the 1971 All-Star game. And Reggie Jackson comes up to plate. My dad just looks at me and goes, he's going to hit a home run. Dude, the dude hit a home run. Reggie hits a home run. My dad just says, I'm your father, man. I knew it. Fathers know everything. Shortly after, my father's making me a sandwich. I notice there's mold on the cheese, and I'm all, oh, no way, dude. That's gross. My dad just looks at me and goes, did you know that pilgrims who ate moldy cheese on the Mayflower, they lived because the mold increased their immunity? And the pilgrims who did not eat moldy cheese, they died. And I'm just looking at my dad going, cut me some more of that moldy cheese, dude. Let's have some sandwiches right now. Dads knew everything. Now, it was around this time, when I was about 9 years old, that my father quit saying that fathers know everything. It had reached the point where my father could just give me this smirk, this sort of supreme smirk, and shrug his shoulders. Like the time my mom dyed her hair blonde. You got to realize, 1971, women in the suburbs were dyeing their hair blonde, and that there was a cliche at the time, blondes have more fun. My mother comes into the living room with her hair dyed blonde, and she says to my father, honey, what do you think? My father just looks at her and goes, you'll be sick of it in about a week. And he just gives me this look like, come on, man, I know everything. Another week passes. My mother announces that she's read about this diet that she's going to go on from Good Housekeeping. My father looks at her and says, you'll be sick of it in about 2 days. 2 days later, mom's eating back to normal. So my parents get divorced. What do you know? My father picks me up. I'm about 16 years old, 17. He takes me to his apartment. He makes me some barbecued swordfish. This was before the days when we knew that swordfish had like a ton of mercury in it. It was damn good, I remember. He would make some good swordfish with fettuccine. So he takes me to his apartment and goes, what are you going to do, son? What are you going to do with your life? And I go, I don't know, man. I don't want to go to college. I know these guys at the gym. They're garbage men, man. They make good money, man. Good benefits. And my dad laughs at me and goes, you'll never be a garbage man. I go, why not? And he says, because, man, you're vain. What are you going to do? You're going to go to a party and people are going to ask you what you do for a living and you're going to tell them you're a garbage man? No, you are too vain to do that. Guarantee you won't be a garbage man. You're going to go to college. So I go to college. And for a week, I major in psychology. I say, I'm majoring in psychology. My dad says, that's shit. Psychology's bullshit, man. You're not going to be a psychology major. Change your major. And I go, to what? I don't know how to do anything. I'm not like you. I'm not a math genius. He goes, you're a good writer. Major in English. You'll be a tech writer. I can get you a job as a technical writer. Switch your major. I switched my major. And I was successful as an English major. I had a high GPA in that and became a college English instructor. So what's the takeaway from all this? I don't know what the hell I'm doing as a father. I'm reading a book right now about having a spirited child. And it is, the only good thing I'm learning from it is other parents are just extremely exhausted and challenged by it. But I don't think you'll see me having conversations with my daughters, telling them that fathers know everything. I just cleaned hair out of the sink. I barely was able to get the snake down the drain. It was all clogged. It was just a night. My dad could have done that in 10 seconds. So, no fathers knows best these days. Must be the generation. Man, I miss those days. Oh, my father was a funny dude. Until next time, I am out of here.